You want to hand her the Park legacy? Mrs. Han Yo-jin's voice cuts across the boardroom like a blade finding a specific nerve. She is not shouting. She does not need to. 12 people sit around a glass table in the most expensive penthouse in all of Gangnam, Seoul, and every single one of them has gone completely still. A woman who couldn't hold her position at a second-rate American bank. She gestures toward Natasha Davidson with 2 fingers, the specific gesture of someone pointing at something that does not belong in the room. A woman whose own colleagues erased her name from her own work like she was never there. A pause. Perfectly timed. Your grandmother would be ashamed. Natasha is on her knees. She dropped her folio, that is all. She is picking it up from 48 floors above the Seoul skyline, under 12 pairs of eyes, under press cameras running in the corner, under a speech that has been rehearsed for much longer than this morning. She picks up the folio. She stands. She straightens her spine completely. Her hands are perfectly still. And Mrs. Han, standing at the head of that table with 30 years of Park family power behind her, has just made the most expensive mistake of her life. Because she forgot to check one thing before she arranged the cameras, before she summoned the board, before she stood in this building and pointed her finger at this woman. She forgot to check what Natasha Davidson's name was on. But to understand what that stillness cost her, and what it was worth, we have to go back. To the night in Las Vegas that Natasha thought was the best night of her life. She had no idea it was also the beginning of everything. Hey besties, welcome back to Afro Soul Tales by Lex. Pull up a seat, get comfortable, because today's story is going to do something to you. Now, if you are new here, hi. I am so glad the algorithm finally sent you to the right place, but before we go one single second further, I need you to please show your support by subscribing and turning on notifications. Done? Good. Now let's go to Las Vegas, the beginning of the most complicated year of one woman's life. Richard Calloway is speaking. He is standing at the front of the Whitmore and Associates conference room on the 22nd floor. Champagne glass raised, the whole team assembled, and he has used the word "we" 9 times in 4 minutes. Natasha is at the back of the room. Her glass is untouched, and her face is perfectly composed. She has had 5 years of practice at that particular expression. We saw an opportunity, Calloway says. We built something exceptional here. He looks at Marcus, then David, then the intern near the window. Not once at Natasha. And while he speaks, her mother's voice moves through her mind, unbidden and precise. Natasha. A woman who can cook for people always has somewhere to go. Walls come down over food. Remember that. Her mother was from Kumasi, Ghana. She knew things about survival that no business school bothers to teach. Natasha holds her champagne glass and does not drink from it, and she decides quietly that today is not the day. The Vegas trip is announced at the end of the speech, almost as an afterthought. 3 days, company card, business class, a thank you wrapped in the shape of a vacation so that no one has to say the word bonus. She takes it because she knows when a battle is not worth fighting yet. The Aria Resort, Las Vegas. Desert heat pressing against her the moment she steps outside, dry and clean and enormous after Atlanta's heavy air. For 3 days she is unreachable. No Calloway, no performance. The last night, a rooftop bar, the whole city burning slowly and brilliantly below. She notices him across the room, a tall man in a dark suit, standing slightly apart from a group of other men, holding a drink he is not drinking, watching the city with the expression of someone in the middle of a private argument with himself. Then he turns and looks directly at her. Not the way men usually look at her in bars. This look asks a question. He crosses the room slowly and stops beside her at the railing. You've been watching the city like it owes you something. Maybe it does. A pause. He almost smiles. I'm Park Seong-gi. Natasha Davidson. They shake hands. So what does the city owe you? A better week than I've had. Is that a long story? 14 months long. He leans against the railing. I have time. She does not know, cannot know yet, that the most powerful heir in South Korea just rearranged his entire evening because of something he read in the way she looked at a city that had not given her what she came for. The rest of the night moves in warmth and laughter and desert air, and the specific feeling of being genuinely seen by someone who has no reason to perform anything. She does not remember agreeing to anything permanent, which is what makes the morning so complicated. White curtains. Morning light pressing through like it is in a hurry. Natasha finds the ring before she finds the certificate. Both palms flat on the bathroom sink, staring at her left hand. The ring is thin, gold, real. The certificate is on the pillow. Cupid's Chapel drive-through wedding service, Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 signatures, both real. She walks out. Seong-gi is already in the living room, ending a phone call when he hears her footsteps. He turns around and looks at her the way a man looks at a situation he has already processed and is now waiting for the other person to catch up. You are up, finally. Have you eaten something? Have I? No. This is... She holds up the certificate. This is a marriage certificate. I know. From a drive-through chapel. I'm aware. In Las Vegas. Yes. He pours water into a glass and sets it in front of her. I've already contacted a lawyer. Annulment takes approximately 72 hours in Nevada. Straightforward process. You're very calm about this. Being agitated won't change the paperwork. Something about that answer makes her exhale. This is manageable. 72 hours. Then his phone rings again. This call is different. She watches the muscles along his jaw tighten for less than a second. He listens, says 4 words in Korean, hangs up. 3 seconds of silence. My grandmother passed away last night. His voice is even, careful. I'm so sorry. Thank you. A pause. Her will was unsealed this morning. She looks at him, uncertain why he is telling this to a total stranger. My lawyer is already on his way. You should freshen up. She picks up her room key and goes upstairs. The lawyer arrives in 40 minutes. He reads the terms in full. Seong-gi's 49% inheritance stake transfers only if his marriage, documented and registered through the Korean Civil Family Registry, is maintained for 1 full year from the date on the certificate. The date on the certificate is yesterday. If the condition fails, the stake moves to a family trust under his uncle, Park Cheol-min. The room goes quiet. Natasha looks at the document, then at the lawyer, then at Seong-gi. Sorry, but I thought the lawyer was coming to handle the annulment. He is. Then why is there a will that references this marriage? A marriage that was signed accidentally? Yesterday? Nobody answers. Seong-gi. He turns from the window. Your grandmother died last night, she says, working through it out loud. Her will has a condition. About this marriage. She looks at him. I need you to help me understand what is happening right now. He crosses to the table and sits down across from her, like a man who has decided this conversation requires eye contact. I would like to offer you $10 million, he says, to stay married. For 1 year. 1 second. 2. Then she laughs. Short and sharp, the kind of laugh that has nothing to do with anything being funny. This must be a joke. Tell me you are joking. He does not answer. His face does not move. $10 million. Yes. To stay married to you. For 1 year. After which the marriage is dissolved and you leave with the full amount. Clean. She looks at the lawyer. The lawyer looks at his briefcase. And you think I'll say yes? I think you're a smart woman who knows the difference between a bad situation and a useful one. Not flattery. Just a statement. She stands, picks up her bag. I appreciate the offer. But no, I have a job. I have 14 months of work. I'm not going to blow up for this. She says it plainly, without heat. I'm genuinely sorry about your grandmother, but this is not my problem to solve. He nods once. Safe travels, Miss Davidson. Her hand is on the door handle when he speaks again. Almost like a thought he did not intend to say out loud. The offer stands, if anything changes. Nothing is going to change, she says. She opens the door and walks out. The door closes the way doors close when someone has made a decision and means it. She books the first flight back to Atlanta from the elevator. She is so completely, quietly certain. She has absolutely no idea what is waiting for her. The days that follow are not what Natasha hoped for. Day 1. Her calendar access is quietly reduced. Day 2. She pulls the Hargrove account documentation. Her name is not on it. Not anywhere in 14 months of work. Day 3. A junior colleague finds her in the corridor. Calloway's presentation absolutely went off. He used your Hargrove framework as the whole foundation for the Baird Group pitch. He actually said that, in front of the New York partners. He reads her face. You didn't know about Baird. I assumed. I'm sorry, Natasha. She keeps her face perfectly still. Day 4. A meeting with HR. A woman named Patricia slides a folder across the table without making eye contact. Inside, a printed tab in clean block letters, Davidson N. Restructure. Someone has already put her name on a file about her own removal. We're evolving your role. You're welcome to reapply. For the position I created. Patricia's hands go still on the folder. She says nothing. Day 5. The coffee shop 2 blocks from the office. The barista runs the card twice and looks at Natasha with genuine sympathy. I'm so sorry. It's not going through. The company card. The one supposed to work through the end of the month. That's fine. Her voice is steady. Her chest is not. Thank you. She walks to the parking garage and does not go back inside the building. She sits in her car, looks at a building that used to feel like hers, and thinks about 5 years. 5 years of arriving first. 5 years of Calloway using we without looking at her. 5 years of confusing patience with power. They are not the same thing. She understands that now. She picks up her phone, finds Seong-gi's contact, stares at it. She calls because she has finally stopped confusing waiting with winning. He picks up on the second ring. I'm reconsidering, she says. 1 beat of silence. When can you fly? She buys a flight to Seoul. She is not arriving as a tourist. This is a contract. Clean terms. 12 months and she walks away rebuilt. She expects a driver, a company car, professional distance. Seong-gi is standing at arrivals himself. No assistant. No sign. Just him. Dark coat. Hands in his pockets. Watching the doors with that stillness she is beginning to recognize as entirely specific to him. When he sees her, he nods once, the way you acknowledge someone whose arrival you were certain of. He takes her bag without asking. They walk. How is the flight? Long. Did you eat? You ask that a lot. You don't eat enough. You've known me for approximately 48 hours. How would you know that? 48 hours is enough to notice. She says nothing to that. The drive crosses the Grand Bridge, 21 kilometers of open water. Like the city behind you has already decided you left. Seoul arrives gradually then all at once. The Han River cutting it in two. Northern Seoul dense and heavy with history. Gangnam spreading south in glass and wide boulevards. The car moves north towards Seongbuk-dong, a hill neighborhood where the trees are old. The Park family residence sits behind iron gates. A restored hanok, traditional Korean courtyard architecture, stone floors, paper screens beside reinforced glass, a garden with a small still pond. It smells like old wood and unfamiliar flowers and someone else's entire life. Mrs. Bay, the housekeeper, shows Natasha to a room at the end of a corridor. At the foot of the bed sits a carved wooden chest. Locked. A folded note in Korean on top. Seong-gi reads it from the doorway, standing close enough that she can hear the words before he says them. What does it say? This room belongs to women of strength. He looks at the chest, then at her. My grandmother was specific about which room the person I marry should have. Interesting? Yeah. She was particular about most things. He leaves. The door stays open. She sits on the edge of the bed and wonders who leaves a note like that for a stranger. Midnight. The mansion quiet in the way of a place where people have learned to be careful about sound. Natasha goes to the kitchen. She finds tomatoes, Scotch bonnet peppers, stock, onions. She begins making jollof rice, measurements in the hands, not the head. Some knowledge lives in the body and not on any page. Mrs. Bay appears in the doorway and sits down at the kitchen table without being asked, just deciding that this kitchen belongs to both of them tonight. When the food is done, Natasha sets a bowl in front of her. Mrs. Bay takes one careful bite, nods once. Then Seong-gi appears in the doorway. He looks at the bowl in front of Mrs. Bay, then at Natasha. Something shifts in his expression, like a door opening a centimeter and catching on something it was not expecting. He sits down and picks up a spoon without asking what the food is. This tastes good. My grandmother used to say the best meals are the ones nobody planned. She was a wise woman, Natasha says. Yes, she was. He resumes eating. Natasha does not notice until much later that her hands, tight at the knuckles since Atlanta, have quietly and completely unclenched. But the locked chest is still upstairs, and she still does not have the key. The welcome dinner happens the following evening. Park Chae-min greets her at the door with a smile that occupies his whole face except his eyes. Natasha, welcome to Seoul. How modern. How wonderful this generation. He means neither thing. Mrs. Han asks about her family in Atlanta with warmth that feels genuine and lands like a calibration. Your mother, she is from Ghana? Kumasi. Yes? She pours another cup, smiles, says nothing further. Park Ji-yeon materializes on Natasha's left. Okay, so I have to ask, have you had Korean fried chicken yet? Because whatever you think you know about fried chicken is currently wrong and I will personally fix this. Ji-yeon. Seong-gi. Quiet. I'm just asking. You're doing the thing. What thing? Where you ask questions until people forget they were nervous. Ji-yeon looks at Natasha. Is it working? Natasha almost smiles. It is the first time all evening that something in her chest has loosened. 3 times during dinner she notices it. The way Seong-gi shifts slightly in his chair. His presence always repositions subtly between her and his uncle, whenever Chae-min's attention drifts toward her. Not announced, not performed, just there. By the 3rd time, she understands. This man is so good at protecting people that he has made it look accidental. It is not accidental. 40 minutes in, the door opens. Shin Ha-eun enters with the practiced timing of someone who understands that a late entrance is its own statement. 27. Mrs. Han's goddaughter, daughter of a prominent political family. She takes the seat Mrs. Han has kept empty, directly beside Seong-gi. Oppa. She touches his arm. Did you get through the Jeju materials? I know you hate reviewing things with your first coffee. Seong-gi looks at her hand on his arm for exactly 1 second, then picks up his glass. I went through them this afternoon. Good. Oh, and your usual from the apgujeong branch. Americano, light ice, no sugar. I had it sent to the office this morning. Ha-eun. I didn't ask you to do that. She laughs softly, like this is a long-standing joke rather than a line being drawn in front of 12 people. You never ask. That's why someone has to. Natasha's hand goes still around her water glass. Ji-yeon leans toward her and speaks quietly in English. I have never liked that woman, and I want you to know that is not a recent opinion. Mrs. Han rises slowly, glass raised. She speaks in Korean, unhurried and gracious. Ji-yeon translates in a whisper. She is saying, to the Park family, to its roots, to blood that remembers where it came from. She says the greatest gift a family can give itself is to remain true to its own foundation. That some things, no matter how they are packaged or presented, simply do not belong in certain rooms, and that a wise family always knows the difference. Mrs. Han raises her glass higher. To legacy. In English. Clearly. Hyun smiles. Several people drink immediately, the way people drink when they want to appear as though they did not hear what they just heard. Seong-gi does not drink. He looks at his glass, then up across the table directly at Natasha. His expression says something she does not yet have the language for, but she is beginning to learn. Now there is something the dinner table does not show you. Mrs. Han has been working toward Ha-eun being with Seong-gi for 2 years, quietly, through dinners, introductions, into the slow architecture of proximity. 2 years of small, deliberate moves, adding up to something she considered almost done. And now, there is a woman sitting across that table wearing a ring and receiving attention that was never meant for her. She did not spend 2 years on this to watch it unravel over one accidental signature in Las Vegas. She is the kind of woman who finds the loose thread and pulls it herself, on her own timeline, in her own way. Natasha does not know that yet. She will. If you have not subscribed, do it now. Because this story has more turns and you need to be there for every single one. Back to Seoul. 3 weeks in. 2 things happening at exactly the same time. The first thing is the nunchi sessions. It starts practically. They need to appear credible at Park Group headquarters 3 mornings a week. So they sit in Seong-gi's study in the evenings and he replays recordings of family meetings on his laptop, pauses them at specific moments, asks her what she sees. Tell me what you notice. Cheol-min talks over the finance director. Every time? What does that tell you? He doesn't want the board trusting her analysis. By the 5th session, she leans forward and says, he never disagrees with you in writing. Only in person. Only when it's just the 2 of you. Seong-gi closes the laptop slowly. He's keeping his hands clean of any record. How long have you known that? About 15 minutes longer than you wanted me to. He looks at her the way you look at someone who just said the exact thing you have been thinking alone for 2 years. Around the same time, Ji-yeon begins giving Natasha informal Korean lessons. Mrs. Bae joins in the evenings, so correcting her pronunciation with small, patient sounds until the words begin to sound like something a person might actually say. The 6th session, they sit too close. The screen requires proximity. The lamp creates a shadow that requires leaning, and at some point the distance between them is no longer the distance of a business arrangement. Neither moves away. The footage plays. Neither is watching it. Ji-yeon appears in the doorway with 2 coffees. Takes one look. Says very loudly, "Oh, I forgot the sugar. Ignore me." She leaves. With both cups. The moment breaks. They both look at the screen. Nothing is said. But something has been placed in the room and it is not going anywhere. The second thing is Mrs. Han. She files an anonymous inquiry with South Korea's immigration authority, suggesting Natasha's documentation may need review. Not a legal attack. A message. She also invites Ha-eun to 3 family events in 2 weeks, always seated near Seong-gi, always bringing him things the way you do for someone whose habits you have memorized. Seong-gi kills the immigration inquiry in 48 hours. He says nothing to Natasha. Ji-yeon tells her 72 hours later. He handled it the same day. He didn't want you to know you had to be scared. He didn't tell me. No, he doesn't tell people when he protects them. He just does it. He has been that way since we were children. The following week, Ha-eun comes to visit as usual. Natasha is coming down the stairs when she passes Ha-eun standing near the console table by the window. On the table sits a tall vase, pale celadon ceramic, the kind of thing that has been in the Park family longer than most of its members. Ha-eun watches Natasha pass. Then there is a sound, a sharp crack, then silence. Natasha turns around. The vase is on the floor in 3 pieces. Ha-eun's hand is at her mouth, eyes wide and perfectly performed. Oh no, you hit the table when you walked past. I didn't touch the table. I saw it. Why are you denying it? Mrs. Han appears from the sitting room doorway within 30 seconds. What happened here? Natasha hit the table. I'm sure it was a mistake. Ha-eun says it softly, like she is being generous. Mrs. Han looks at the pieces, then at Natasha. That vase was a gift to Seong-gi's mother. 22 years in this corridor. Her voice drops, which is worse than if it rose. I have tried to be patient. I have tried to be welcoming. But you walk through this house like it is a hotel you checked into by accident, bringing your... She pauses, and the pause does more damage than any word she puts after it. Your habits into spaces that were never built for them. And now this. I didn't touch the vase. Of course you didn't. Quietly, almost gently. It simply threw itself to the floor in your presence. She turns to the housekeeper. Have it removed. She walks back into the sitting room. Natasha stands in the corridor, keeping every single thing she is feeling completely off her face. Seong-gi comes down the stairs 2 minutes later. He stops, looks at Natasha, only at Natasha. Are you hurt? The question is so immediate that Ha-eun opens her mouth to explain and then closes it, and because he is not looking at her or the vase. He is looking only at Natasha's face. I'm fine, Natasha says. He checks her hands, her arms, with the quiet thoroughness of someone not interested in the story of what happened, only in whether she is okay. Appa, Ha-eun says, something underneath her voice thinning. I was just saying, she caught the table when she... Ha-eun. He says her name the way you say a word when you mean stop. Does not look at her. No need to explain. Just let it go. He walks with Natasha toward the study and leaves Ha-eun standing there. Ha-eun's hand presses flat against the console table until her knuckles go pale. Mrs. Bae comes to Natasha's room the very next morning with the key to the chest, a small key on a red silk cord. She sets it on the table, touches her own chest with 2 fingers, and points upward. She had been holding it the whole time, waiting for the right morning. They open the chest together. Inside, folded silk in ceremonial colors. Photographs of the grandmother in her 30s, standing before a textile factory in Busan, the sea behind her, shoulders straight, a leather journal, and at the very bottom, sealed, a manila envelope, Natasha's full name, written in English, in the handwriting of a woman she never met. Mrs. Bae calls Ji-yeon. Ji-yeon arrives in 12 minutes, still in pajamas, sits on the floor, opens the letter, and starts translating. She is addressing you directly. To the woman my grandson cannot stop thinking about. Ji-yeon looks up. Unni. The word means older sister in Korean. She uses it now without thinking. Keep reading. She hired a research firm. 18 months before she died. Brilliant in financial systems. Someone tested by betrayal. Someone who understood legacy because they had watched something real be taken from them. Ji-yeon pauses. She reviewed 42 profiles. Yours was the 43rd. Natasha's hands go completely still. She showed your profile to Seong-gi without explaining what it was. A potential business contact. And in the following week, without being asked, he mentioned your name twice. Ji-yeon's voice goes very quiet. She wrote that down. Both times. Unnie. She knew who you were before you knew who she was. Silence. She arranged the Las Vegas conference redirect, not the chapel. But she put you in the same room. Ji-yeon stops reading. She knew my name. She had read my file like a resume and a recommendation letter at the same time. She decided, alone, that I was the person her grandson needed. And she was already gone by the time I arrived. The woman who saw me most clearly in my adult life was a stranger who never got to meet me. Ji-yeon reaches back into the envelope. There is something else. She pulls out another document, stares at it, and frowns. I don't understand this. It's just numbers. What is this? Natasha takes it, looks at the first page, then the second, then goes very still. Ji-yeon, who is Whitmore and Associates to the Park Group? I have never heard that name. Why? Natasha looks at the countersignatures. Richard Calloway, Whitmore and Associates, Atlanta, Georgia. The man who stole my work. His name is on every single page. What does it mean? I don't understand. An internal audit. 4 years of transactions. Han Cheol-min authorized every transfer, and Calloway countersigned each one, fabricated invoices. He was the concealment mechanism. Ji-yeon stares at her. He was helping Cheol-min steal from the company. Yes. And he was also the one who... Yes. She handed me both things at once. My dignity and my weapon. In the same envelope. Ji-yeon reaches into the chest one final time and pulls out the leather journal. She opens to the first page. Her face changes. Ji-yeon. What does it say? A pause. She closes it slowly. Unnie. This one is not for you. It is addressed to my brother. That night, Natasha knocks on Seong-gi's study door with the journal. He opens the door. His eyes go directly to it. His right hand grips the door frame the way you hold something when you need something solid. Did you read it? No. He holds out his hand. She passes it to him. He does not open it. He looks at it for a long moment, then at her. She wrote me something, and she gave it to you to bring to me. He is quiet. Rain still coming down outside. Why you? Of everyone, why you? I think she knew I would bring it to you unopened. He looks at her face for a long time. She was right. He steps back from the door. She comes in. He sits at his desk and opens the journal. She takes the chair across from him. He reads quietly for a long time, then reads one part aloud. She wrote, I have watched you carry this company like it is a punishment you are serving. You protect everything and everyone, and you have forgotten that you are also allowed to choose something for yourself. Not for the family, not for the name. For you. We found a woman who knows what it costs to build something real. She will understand you in ways this family never has. But Seong-gi, you have to let her. That part is yours. He closes the journal. She knew what Cheol-min was doing. She knew I had been looking for the evidence for 2 years and could not find it. He sets it down carefully. She trusted your mind because she knew you would find what I could not. Natasha looks at him across the desk and says nothing. The door stays open. She stays. The months that followed were quieter. The Korean lessons continued. The research file on Natasha's laptop grew thicker every week. Seong-gi and Natasha moved through the house like two people who had stopped pretending the contract was only a contract. Mrs. Han watched all of it with the patience of someone who had already chosen her moment. The year completed itself one ordinary day at a time, and then Mrs. Han called the board review. The Park Group holds a formal board review every year. Mrs. Han had been preparing for this one for weeks. She invited Ha-eun's father specifically. She arranged press cameras. She had saved the immigration inquiry for a stage big enough to present it on. Her plan was clean. Present the inquiry as evidence of a fraudulent marriage. question Natasha's legitimacy publicly, introduce Ha-eun's family as the appropriate future of the Park Group, and accelerate Cheol-min's control of the inheritance trust. One room. One morning. She had thought of everything. What Mrs. Han did not know was that Seong-gi had also been preparing. He arrived over an hour before anyone else and made 2 phone calls. The first to his lawyer, the second to the Korean Financial Supervisory Service. The referral had been filed that morning before Mrs. Han opened the proceedings, before anyone in that room said a single word. He had not been waiting to see what Natasha would do. He had already moved. The elevator doors open on the 48th floor. The penthouse boardroom stretches before her, floor-to-ceiling glass on every wall. The full Seoul skyline pressing in from all sides like the city itself came to watch. Long table. Press cameras running. 12 faces turning toward the door. Ha-eun is already seated directly beside the empty chair near Seong-gi's position. Natasha walks in wearing deep green. The exact shade of the kente cloth her mother carried from Kumasi, or the cloth that has hung in every home she has lived in since she was 8 years old. Nobody in this room can read that. It is not for them. It is for the woman who wrote her name on an envelope and locked it in a chest and waited. She finds Seong-gi at the far wall. He is already looking at her. She holds his gaze for 2 seconds. He gives her the smallest nod. Mrs. Han opens the proceedings with the warmth of a woman entirely certain of how this morning ends. She presents the immigration inquiry, questions the marriage documentation, calls it irregular, then gestures toward Ha-eun's family. This is what the appropriate partnership for this company's future looks like. Natasha lets her finish. Every word. Then she stands. She opens in Korean, in Jeondaemal. I'm the formal, respectful register she spent 6 evenings learning word by careful word across from Mrs. Bay at the kitchen table. The room shifts the way a current shifts before it reaches the surface. Then, in English, I have 3 things to present. She places the grandmother's sealed audit on the table. 4 years of transactions through the Park Group's Social Enterprise Division. Authorization, Park Cheol-min. Counter-signatures concealing each transfer through fabricated consulting invoices, Richard Calloway, Whitmore and Associates, Atlanta, Georgia. Cheol-min does not move. The second thing I found myself. She opens her own file. A shell company, Cayman Islands, registered 2019. It appears as a vendor in 3 separate Park Group subsidiary transactions. No employees, no website, no physical address. No activity except receiving wire transfers from Park Group accounts authorized by Park Cheol-min. She looks at the board member who has been leaning forward since she started. A structure invisible to anyone who does not know exactly where to look inside a corporate filing. The board member asks one question in Korean. Ji-yeon near the wall translates in a whisper. He wants to know how long you have been working on this. Since day 9, in Seoul. The room holds that answer. Nobody speaks. The third thing, the marriage documentation, registered through the Korean Civil Family Registry. Legal, valid, complete. The grandmother's condition, met in full. Seong-gi's lawyer steps forward. As Seong-gi's legal registered wife and co-signatory on Park Group family assets, Natasha Davidson holds a recorded stake in all properties held under the family registry, including this building, for the duration of the marriage. She forgot to check whose name was on the deed. Cheol-min stands. You have no right to bring fabricated. You have been stealing from a company your mother built with her own hands. Her voice does not rise. Her hands are still. You hid it through the same man who stole my career. You did not just underestimate me, Mr. Park. You handed me a map directly to you. Ha-eun's father reaches for his water glass, sets it down without drinking, picks up his jacket, and walks to the door without a word to anyone. Does not look back. Ha-eun watches him go. Then she turns and looks at Mrs. Han with the expression of a woman who has just understood she was never a choice. She was a piece placed and moved, and now removed from the game entirely. She picks up her bag and leaves through the same door. Mrs. Han watches her go. Does not call after her. Chae-min's lawyer whispers urgently. Chae-min shakes him off. This changes nothing. This is one document. This is... The Korean Financial Supervisory Service will determine what it is. Seong-gi's voice is quiet and final. The referral was filed this morning, and Whitmore and Associates has been contacted by the FSS counterpart agency in the United States. Richard Calloway's counter-signatures are on every page. He is currently explaining himself to people who are much less patient than I am. The press cameras have not stopped running. Chae-min looks at Seong-gi, then at Natasha, then at the document with his own signature on every page. He sits down. Mrs. Han stands at the head of the table, the woman who built this gathering over weeks, who arranged every seat, every camera angle, every prepared phrase. She reaches for her teacup. Her hand stops halfway. She sets both hands in her lap instead. For the first time in 30 years of Park family dinners and board meetings and carefully arranged alliances, she does not know what to do with them. Seong-gi walks through the board members, through the cameras, and stops in front of Natasha. Close enough that only she hears. You found the shell company. I have been looking for that account for 2 years. He stops himself. My grandmother said you would find it. I told her she was wrong. He looks at her. I do now, believe her. Ji-yeon near the wall has both hands pressed over her mouth. The room keeps making noise. Neither of them is listening to it. Later, when the board members have filed out and the 48th floor has gone quiet, Natasha stands at the window alone. The Seoul skyline spreads below her. Gold and glass and the Han River cutting through all of it like something permanent. Seong-gi finds her there and stands beside her. It's over, she says. The company is safe, he says. A pause. The year is up. The condition is met. The contract is done. I know. So I can go home. You can. The lawyers can have everything processed within the week. The annulment. The full amount. Everything we agreed. Clean, like I promised. Okay, she says. Okay, he says. Neither of them moves. Seong-gi. The 10 million, I never touched it. He looks at her. I know. Then he says her name the way he has not said it before, without the careful economy he usually applies to words that cost him something. I want to ask you something that has nothing to do with the contract. She waits. Stay. Not because of the inheritance, not because of anything my grandmother arranged, because I am asking you. Just me. She looks at him for a long time. At this man who asked if she had eaten before he explained a will. Who showed up alone at an airport at 7 a.m. Who stood in the rain and did not go inside. For what it's worth, she says. I stopped thinking about Atlanta a long time ago. I stopped thinking about the contract, the money, going home. I stopped thinking about any of it. She looks at him steadily. I'm not staying because you asked me to. I'm staying because I fell in love with you. He crosses the small distance between them and takes her face in both hands gently, the way you hold something you have been careful with for a long time and are now finally allowing yourself to keep. I have been in love with you since you told a Las Vegas rooftop it owed you a better week, he says. She laughs, soft and real and completely unguarded. I love you too, drive-through husband. He moves closer and kisses her. And the city below them keeps burning, slowly and brilliantly, the way it did the first night when two strangers stood at a railing and one of them turned around and asked a question that took an entire year to answer. There is a word the Koreans call han. There is no direct translation. In it is the feeling of carrying sorrow and injustice for so long that it transforms, not into bitterness, but into something stronger than the thing that caused it. The Koreans built that word because generations of people survived impossible things and needed somewhere to put what that survival made them. Natasha had been living inside that feeling her entire life. She just did not have a word for it until Seoul gave her one. Richard Calloway took 14 months of her work and put his name on it. He took her position, her access, and her card. And then, without knowing it, he handed her to Seoul. He thought he was removing her from the story. He was just moving her to a different chapter. 3 weeks after that board meeting, Whitmore and Associates placed him on administrative leave. He resigned the following week. Park Soon-hee never got to meet her, but she saw her clearly enough to build a plan around what she believed she was capable of. The woman who saw her most clearly was a stranger who never made it to the other side of her own plan. Now I want you to think about something before you go. Every person who underestimated you, every door closed in your face, every name removed, every room that decided about you before you opened your mouth. What if none of it was the end of your story? What if it was just the part that was preparing you for the room you were actually meant to walk into? Natasha walked into a Las Vegas chapel by accident. She walked into a Seoul boardroom on purpose. Same woman, completely different understanding of what she was worth. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments, who was your Calloway? The person who took something from you and thought you would never recover. Tell me. I read every single one. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you have not already, so you do not miss our next story. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.